Good afternoon to each and everyone. This program is about to start. For any concerns related to your audio, video, and Zoom meeting application, you may type in your concerns in the chat box and a DOST-NCR personnel will gladly assist you. Also, for the information of all, this session is being recorded for documentation purposes. We do encourage the participants to take down notes for the valuable thoughts and insights that will be shared by our speaker. Magandang araw po muli sa lahat. Welcome to the second session of the webinar series on Science, Technology, and Innovation, Purposive Researches for Smarter Communities, with its topic on examining blended learning experiences of higher education institutions. This is in line with the year's celebration of National Science Technology Week, with the theme of Aghama Teknolohiya, Sandigan ng Kalusugan, Kabuhayan, Kaayusan at Kinabukasan. I am Rose Ann Fernandez from DOST-NCR, and I will be your moderator for this afternoon session. To start our program, let us acknowledge the loving presence of the Lord through an opening prayer to be led by Mr. Jaime Sebastian Jr., followed by the singing of the Philippine National Anthem.
Tayo ay manalangin at damhin ang presensya ng Diyos. Panginoon, maraming salamat po sa panibagong araw na pinagkaloob niyo sa amin. Patuloy niyo po kaming gabayan sa mga hamon ng buhay at turuan niyo po kaming mas magtiwala sa inyong kapangyarihan higit sa panahong ito. Dalangin po namin na pagkalooban niyo rin po ng karagdagang pangkahusayan ang aming mga tagapagsalita upang mas maibahagi nila ng wasto ang kanilang kaalaman at bigyan mo po kami ng karunungan na maunawaan ang bawat paksa. Panginoon, bigyan mo rin po kami ng bukas na isip at puso na mas makita ang pagpapala na binubuhos niyo sa amin. Balutin niyo po kami ng inyong dakilang pagmamahal, grasya at kapayapaan. Ito ang aming dalangin sa matamis na pangalan ni Jesus. Amen.
We would like to recognize the presence of our resource speaker, Dr. Jasper Alantaga, our guests from DOST regional offices and DOST agencies, also to our partners from the local government units, DepEd, state universities and colleges, and non-government associations. To formally welcome us, may I call on the Regional Director of DOST-NCR, Mr. Jose B. Patalinhog III.
It is my pleasure to welcome you, our guests and partners. Thank you for joining us in this session. Providing quality education while teachers, instructors, and students are at home remains a challenge during this new normal. Indeed, there were a lot of adjustments in our education system that needed to be implemented to ensure that all students will be able to gain knowledge even remotely. Today, we focus on the blended learning experiences of the higher education institutes and the use of learning management systems with Dr. Jasper Vincent Alontaga, member of the Division of Governmental, Education and International Policies of the DOST National Research Council of the Philippines. Let us use agham at teknolohiya to ease issues and challenges in providing education amidst a pandemic crisis which limits our access and physical contact. Not only in education is a right, it is also our foreground. As sandigan ng kabuhayan at kinabukasan. May your learnings here reach our educators and policymakers to impact change in the education system provided in your own locality. Thank you and good day.
Thank you po, RD Jojo, for that warm message to our participants and to our speakers. To give our speaker an idea of the participants' background, let us answer the short survey that will be flashed on your screen. A further instruction and link was sent to our chat box. We'll proceed po for the survey later part after the teaser video. So to give us the brief background or ideas for today's topic with regards to blended learning, we prepared for a short video presentation. Let's all watch this. To discuss with us the topic on examining blended learning experiences of higher education institutions, our speaker, Dr. Jasper Vincent Q. Alontaga, earned his master's degree and doctorate in education major in special education in De La Salle University and University of the Philippines Diliman respectively. He is currently working as an associate professor and associate director in academic support for the Instructional Services and Technology or ASIST at De La Salle University. Our speaker specializes on technology-based learning systems such as developing computer-assisted instruction, blended learning courses, and online delivery courses. Some of his published researches are as follows: computer practices and its relationship to e-learning readiness, online academic honesty of higher education students in blended learning courses, e-learning outreach program for public basic education in the Philippines, and an action research and implication for the policy formulation towards inclusive education. Our speaker also received a grant project research from De La Salle University on his Research Learning Network PH, a roadmap to blended teaching training program for public school teachers. And Dr. Alantaga is a regular member of the Division of Governmental Education and International Policies of DOST-NRCP. He is also a member of a different organizations such as Philippine Research Association for Early Childhood Education or Advocata, giving voice to children with special needs, and UNESCO Research Distribution and Training Center. Let us all welcome our speaker, Dr. Jasper Vincent Q. Alantaga.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Rose Ann. Thank you for the introductions. And I would like to also express my gratitude to Sir Patalin Hug and the Department of Science and Technology for the opportunity to share at least our learnings in De La Salle University, Manila. So uh, before anything else, kamusta tayo mga teachers? Okay, so that we always say we start even our online classes with a kamustaan session. So for this afternoon, I would like to also start with that. Okay, so as mentioned, I'll be sharing and also reflecting, sharing my reflections with you guys of the experiences in blended learning in higher education institutions. But specifically, really, I'll be talking about the blended learning experience of De La Salle University with Animo Space. Okay, so Animo Space, as you can imagine, is our official learning management system. Okay, so it is powered by Canvas. I think some of you might be familiar with Canvas more than the Animo Space. Okay, and as I mentioned yesterday during the introductory or the opening program, there's really two major objectives that I would like to achieve this afternoon, which is I hope that as I share our learning, then you can also reflect on both the affordances and challenges in blended learning in your own context. Okay, so when we talk about the use of technology, it really comes down to your context as an institution and the context even in your classrooms. You know your students more than I do. And of course, I hope that this sharing will also serve as inputs to our school leaders, policymakers on planning and continuously improving the preparations to have their own successful roadmap for blended learning and also online distance learning. Sige po. So without further ado, let us begin. Okay, so I might be turning on and off my video at certain parts of the sharing. I hope that is okay. Sige, I always start that because of the pandemic, and this has been repeated, I'm sure you've sat down with other sharing on the matter, that uh, more than any time in the history of education, perhaps, we are at risk now. Okay, so when we say we, not just schools, okay, some schools have, of course, uh, shut down in a sense that they are not able to continue providing the services. But we teachers and also our students are at risk, okay, because we were caught unprepared to some extent, okay, when we talk about moving things online. Okay, and depending on your institution, I'm sure Some of you have started with the concept of blended learning or hybrid learning, even when you were doing your face-to-face instruction. Okay, so in that sense, some of you might have transitioned better compared to those students, teachers, and schools that really started off from pure face-to-face classroom instruction and now to 100% pure online. Okay, so but as I always say, more than ever, technology can also serve as a diversity accommodation tool for individuals at risk. Okay, so we always say that technology is a double-edged sword, so it can be both a challenge and it can also be a tool to solve educational challenges. So I'd like to start as well with this particular quote from Jan Cao. And he says that strategy without innovation is useless, and innovation without strategy is aimless. Okay, and sure enough, there are a lot of innovations going on in teaching now. Okay, or at least we are quote unquote forced to really innovate how we do things. Okay, in order to continue to be responsive to our learners and of course to continue the learning process. In De La Salle University, Manila, we are following what we call the SAM-R model of technology integration. So this was our strategy in terms of how we see our roadmap for blended learning. Okay, so if you're familiar, I wouldn't discuss this in detail. You can just look at Dr. Puentedura's model of the SAMR. Okay, but as you can see in this illustration, okay, so all of us would start with no tech, or in our context for this afternoon, no blending, okay, and then we move towards blended learning, either start off with substitution, getting our feet wet, and then move towards augmentation, which are all considered simply enhancements of our no tech or no blending. And then once we become brave enough in terms of competency and even perhaps attitude towards blended and online distance learning, then we move to transformation levels like modification and redefinition. Okay, of course, when we talk about innovation, we would like to emphasize that innovation compared to the enhancement levels would really target the transformation levels or the M and the R. Okay, but might be a reflection for you guys to think, in my blending right now or in my online distance learning right now, okay, what level am I? So in De La Salle University, we outlined our roadmap, if I'm not mistaken, way back, because we've been doing blended learning at least for a couple of decades now. Okay, and of course, we shifted from LMS to another LMS. Okay, we started off with IVLE and then Sakai, and now we're using Animo Space for the last couple of years. Okay, so we identified three levels wherein we want teachers to transition, okay, from level 0, which is not using the learning management system, to level 3, wherein all the syllabus, video lectures, all deliverables, and really no lecture in classroom. Okay, and as you can imagine, before the pandemic, okay, so most of our teachers were in level 1 and level 2. Okay, so those who are just in the substitution are just uploading their syllabus and materials, and some teachers have already attempted doing what we call blended learning. Okay, so in the case of Del Salle University Manila, 50%, as much as 50% is done online. So meaning 50% of the class interaction is done online. Okay, so that can mean like a twice a week class is now done once a week, or it's done every other week. Okay, but of course in the pandemic, everyone is forced, okay, to move to level 3. Okay, so those who were in level 1 now have to do a level 3 use of the learning management system. Those in level 2, as I said, might have found it easier to move from 50% and then to 100% full online teaching. Okay, so I'm sure for our some of you guys, again, try to determine where you were before the pandemic, and right now you are already in level 3. Okay, so it begs the question for planners, if we are already on level 3, then what will be level 4? Okay, so and I hope that this sharing as well can give insights on where we can possibly go with level 4. Okay, because we've heard talks about things will not go back to normal, even though face-to-face learning can happen. Blended learning would now be an essential component of the next or the new normal. Okay, so there's also, I would like to just define the context, because I might be switching my terminologies throughout the presentation or using them synonymously. Okay, so uh, the topic is really more on blended learning as titled. Okay, but there's a movement to really, because we're in blended learning, we combine asynchronous and synchronous activities. Okay, but the concept of blended learning would still point that there would still be that face-to-face interaction between the teacher and the student. Okay, oftentimes they would do the asynchronous online and do the synchronous in the face-to-face environment. So that was somewhat the situation before the pandemic. Okay, that schools might have been doing blended learning, but the synchronous session most of the time is done still in the face-to-face. Okay, but now, of course, everyone's going online. So the term now is bichronous online learning. Okay, so when we say bichronous online learning, it's still a combination of synchronous online activities and asynchronous online learning activities. Okay, so it's just that everything is again done online. Okay, so as I said, 100% online. And we started off in De La Salle University trying to really determine the tenets of our online learning. Okay, so as I said, we are using Animo Space, powered by Canvas, and these are our 6 tenets in terms of online learning. Okay, so it's safe and secure. Only those with DLSU accounts are able to access our LMS. Okay, it's driven by instructional design to ensure quality of online learning experience. It's flexible, allowing a spectrum of synchronous and asynchronous learning activities and features. It's inclusive to consider the access, readiness, and skills of all our learners. We want it to be collaborative and, of course, offer support for all our stakeholders. Okay, of course, these are very ideal concepts, and these are often, of course, need to be backed up by initiatives. And the first part of my presentation, I will share with you some of the initiatives we have done in the university, or in a sense, our timeline before we conducted our first full online term. Okay, so we did not also had full online last before the pandemic. What we had at most, as I said, is 50% online. Okay, so let me start with the story, March 2020. Okay, I hope you can still recall March. Okay, time seems to be longer now in pandemic. Okay, so we were at the middle of the term during that time when the cancellation of cancellation of classes started. Okay, and the mindset before was really emergency remote teaching. Okay, so middle of the term, things need to happen quickly. Okay, teachers need to what you call this, convert their sessions into online sessions. Okay, so emergency, it's unplanned. Okay, so and as an office that supports the academic the academics, our office also quickly, okay, sent out a quick guide to transition your face-to-face class to online learning. And we supported this with daily pop-up webinars, we call them, and Q&A sessions. This is more of virtual professional learning communities or communities of practice that we do via our Animo Space Lounge for teachers. So we have established some resources before the pandemic. So our office also had to realign it since the delivery of these resources will now be done online. Okay, so um, the term ended around April, and then at the latter part of April, that's when we started to formalize or converted a formal online certification course for our teachers. Okay, so it's a webinar series initially, and then it became a self-paced online certification course. And then May, we started developing course templates, and we made it available to our LMS. Aside from the templates, we also have templates for rubrics, templates for Zoom backgrounds that our teachers can opt to use. Okay, and then the beginning of May as well, we started discussion on the use of the LMS to the integrated school. Okay, before the pandemic, it was only the senior high school and the college undergraduate and graduate who were using the LMS. Okay, but of course, the integrated school, grade 4 to junior high school would have to now use the LMS. Okay, so I talked about training earlier, and one thing that I can share is that we find that offering different tracks to our teachers was a good practice for us. Okay, so we offered multiple tracks, as you can see here. Track A is really the self-paced. Track B is the webinar series. Track C is they can be certified based on their um, participation in other trainings. Okay, because during that time there were a lot of also free trainings in Facebook happening about online distance learning. Okay, and track D, those who were already using the learning management system but simply did not undergo the certification process, then we give credit to by looking at the courses they develop and certify them accordingly. Okay, so especially for track B, we found it very helpful to tap on our learning management champions. We call them the Animo champions. Okay, we have champions identified for each of the colleges. So we try to tap on them to share their best practices and also tap on our external networks to give ideas on how they handle the transition, especially for emergency and for online distance learning. So teachers were happy to earn badges. Okay, so we have 5 major badges during that time, and at the end of the self-paced certification course, you can earn as well a photo frame that you can use for your Facebook just to market that we are serious about online distance learning and animal space. So it proved to be very helpful to get the word out there and get everyone on board when it comes to blended learning. Okay, I mentioned about templates earlier, so we had to share. We created a template that our professors can use. Okay, one of the things that we found out at the beginning is that really uh, teachers lack the preparation time or enough preparation time for their blended courses. Okay, especially for us in De La Salle University, we are a trimestral system, so the preparation time between terms can be very tight. So we felt that a template would solve that in terms of promoting as well the instructional design that we want teachers to follow for their online courses. Okay, so at this point, around I think more than 600 have downloaded and used the templates for their own courses. Okay, so we usually follow the 4 Ds of instructional design: discover, discuss, deepen, and demonstrate. Okay, so we also sent out Zoom backgrounds because that was the initial concern of our teachers, that the quick response that they tend to do would be to convert their face-to-face discussions into online discussions. So It proved to be, again, very helpful for teachers. Simple things like this, and as I said, templates for rubrics, how to for rubrics for online discussion, rubrics for different online projects are also provided for our faculty to use. So going back to the timeline, start of June, we formulated what we call the Animal Space Response Team. And the response team is more of a call center support wherein our teachers would can log in at any time to have a Google Meet consultation with our Animal Space champions and volunteers. And then June 9, we launch our blueprint course managers training, as we call it. Okay, and then uh, middle of June, we talked about we launched our call for course preparation assistance program. Okay, so as I said, preparation time is a challenge, so we had to respond that we were looking at coaching like our those who are experienced with blended learning can coach people who would need virtual hand holding for their first online distance learning. And end of June, we launch what we call the Animal Open Space, which is our way to give back to the community, wherein we train teachers, private school teachers from PEAC schools on how to transition to full um, online distance learning. So blueprint courses would also help ease the preparation time for our teachers. As the name would suggest, blueprint courses are template courses, but it's really done internally by subject teachers. So the best approach is always going to be a collegial approach um, in terms of course design. So basically, teachers who are handling the same courses work together on a blueprint course, and the blueprint course that they created will be applied to all the sections of that particular subject. Okay, it proved to be very helpful, especially for the general education courses of our first year, because all first year are taking these subjects anyway. And we had an initial 17 instructional coaches and course content developers. So these are teachers who have more experience in animal space. So we offered them deloading so that they can help other teachers in the transition to online distance learning. And when we launched our animal space response team, we had an initial 5-member team. Okay, so usually they would be one would be available uh, uh, each day of the week, so that any day of the week, if you needed synchronous support, then you can just go to the animal space response team. Okay, so these are some of the things that we instituted as part of our initiatives to help our teachers. Okay, I mentioned about the animal open space, and specifically pertaining to the course we entitled Guide for Teachers Without Borders. So we had 2 batches of around 700 per batch. So we trained a little a little more than 1,400 PAYAC affiliated teachers um, on on online course design and management. Okay, I would love to tell the story of this, but maybe in another forum. Okay, so July is the start of somewhat the start of our first full online term. Okay, so for us it was the third term of the last school year. Okay, so it was from July all the way to start end of September, start of October. Okay, so first thing in order is we released the Animo Space Primer, which is our manual for online distance learning. And then during the term, we had our bi-weekly Animo Space Experience Survey for our teachers and students. And then towards the end of July, we separated the lounge for students. Okay, we had a certification course for students, but we separated the lounge specifically for discussions with students. And then, of course, at the end of the term, we had time to reflect on our first full online term. So students should not also be left behind. So we initially focused at the beginning of the during April for teachers, because again, teachers are the ones that need to prepare their courses early on. But as the term started, we heavily promoted our Animo Space student orientation course. It's a self-paced course that would allow the students to learn more about how to navigate Animo Space, as well as how to become effective online learners. Okay, and we also instituted the Animo Space Lounge for students. Okay, it's a freedom wall for students to talk about uh, suggestions, comments, and challenges that they encounter with online distance learning. Okay, rather than hearing it from other portals, we want to give that avenue for students so that we can also feed from their get items from their feedback. And every week, we also had our Animal Space tip of the week for teachers and students. And the tips are really aligned based on what is crucial at that particular uh, point of the term. So, for example, if it's a week two tip of the week, it's probably focused more on how to change your profile or how to communicate with your teacher, whereas the tip of the week towards the end is would be how to look at your grades, okay, and for teachers how to compute for the final grades of your students. Okay, so July again. So that was our story. And then at the end of the term, September, early October, we examined the acceptance of our students and teachers, but primarily students being the clients, their acceptance of our animal space, as well as, and it gave us some inputs that we can use looking ahead and moving forward. So let me share with you guys the study, or at least the work in progress. Okay, it's not yet a formal study because it's not yet published. So it's still we're still finalizing the paperwork for submission to journals. Okay, but this particular study looked into three phases of the trimester. Okay, so as I said, we had some data at the start of the term, and it was anchored on Bradley, Brown, and Kelly's students online academic success indicators, or oasis. Okay, so and we also gathered data from our bi-weekly surveys for of our students and teachers during the term. So again, this covers the third term school year 2019 to 2020 bi-weekly surveys, and we also looked at the LMS analytics during our first full online term. Okay, so it also contains open-ended questions in terms of best practices and challenges for our respondents. And then at the end of the term, we gave out our uh, acceptance of animal space survey. Okay, so it also included the Oasis um, survey, but aside from that, it also looked into the community of inquiry survey by Arbo and et al. Okay, as well as the technology that we adapted the technology acceptance questionnaire of Al Harbi and Drew. Okay, so if you are familiar with the technology acceptance survey, it's a 23 item 7-point scale that covers um, 34 item rather, okay, that covers different aspects of technology acceptance. The community of inquiry is a 5-point scale that covers cognitive presence, social, and teaching presence in online courses. And the oasis covers self-efficacy beliefs and self-regulation of learners. Okay, so I'm here with you guys this afternoon to share with you some of the findings and some insights regarding the data at this point in time. Okay, so let's start off with the first one, which is the start of term survey for students, which is, in our case, we treated it as the readiness for online distance learning. So this was done around as early as May. Okay, we sent out the survey to our students. This would run from May to June, uh, and then we wanted to get a sense of what's their expectation for the upcoming full online term. Okay, so around 1,700 rather students responded to this particular survey, and you can see here, just pulling up some of the more important information from the survey. Okay, so most of our we of course would ask what is their how would they rate their internet access at home, okay, in relation to their online needs and tasks. Okay, and as you can see, most would say that it's either sufficient or somewhat sufficient. Okay, and just know that 56.7% of the respondents are below 20 years old. Okay, and most of them are full-time students, and they express that they have access to technology as well. Okay, remember, we're talking about here DLSU respondents, so in a sense they have available technology with them. Okay, and it seems like they also have sufficient access when it comes to the internet. Okay, we also asked them who among them had a blended or hybrid learning course before. Okay, as we said, before the pandemic, some teachers already had hybrid courses, and 56.4% mentioned that they already had blended courses. Okay, so it's a good chunk of participants. Most of them also expressed that they have used Animo Space before. Around 85% mentioned that, but they've only used it for less than a year. Okay, so the LMS itself is fairly new. Okay, so it's just understandable. Okay, but what's important here to note is that, as we said, uh, reflecting on it, does it mean that if you had uh, already experienced blended learning, then are you more ready for online distance learning? Okay, so I'll try to answer that a little later. Um, we also ask our participants to assess their experience, okay, with the Animo Space tools. Okay, and for those who had used Animo Space and had blended learning courses, most of them mentioned that um, the different tools in Animo Space are really useful and easy to use. Okay, of course, the top tools will always be assignment, announcement, files, marks. Okay, so you can see that this would imply that the fact earlier that I mentioned, that most teachers were at level one using the learning management system to share files, post announcement, uh, do asynchronous assignments as a way to substitute or augment their face-to-face instruction. Okay, and you can see on the right side of the graph really some of the tools not used in Animo Space before the pandemic or before the first full online term. Okay, so pages, collaboration, conferences is also more on the right side, as well as studio or the art tool. Okay, so we'll see the changes regarding these experiences a little later. Okay, so but for us, this clearly indicated the level, as I said, of where our teachers were at the before the start of the full online term. So the second half of the start of term survey talked about the students. online academic success indicators or OASIS. Okay, so we wanted to get like 5.0 as 5.0 is a good number, meaning they are pretty confident with that particular item. And as you can see, most of the items would be around 4, would exceed 4.0, but only one really was rated as students being pretty confident. Okay, so students were saying at the start of the term that they were pretty confident to meet online deadlines for course requirements. Okay, again, students have not yet experienced full online distance learning, and the tail end of the pandemic really struck us during the tail end of the term. But admittedly, as you can see here, there were a couple of items that students were really not so confident about. Okay, so it's really on maintaining focus on an assigned task, okay, and eliminating distractions that interfere with a suitable learning environment. Okay, so for our teachers here, I'm sure this is something that you that is a concern for teachers. Okay, uh, the shorter attention span of our students, and how can, and since we're moving things online, okay, being able to really self-regulate and uh, keep away from distractions is a crucial skill for online distance learning. So when it comes to self-efficacy beliefs, it's a better picture in a sense that there's really no item that the students said or identified that they are not too confident. Okay, and there's a couple of items that they identified that they are pretty confident with, like uploading an assignment, composing an email, downloading and saving files for posted courses. And again, this goes back to the fact that these were the uses of Animo Space before by their teachers. Okay, so they've already developed competencies in regards to specifically these three items. We also tried to look at some of how the profile items related to their OASIS scores. And although those who had experienced blended learning before seem to have higher self-regulation and self-efficacy beliefs, it's not really as significant, okay, when we run the test of difference. Okay, but so even the age of the students were not really correlating as much with their self-regulation and self-efficacy beliefs. But what was the only thing that seemed to relate or had a significant difference in terms of self-efficacy um, is the quality of internet access of our students. So meaning those who said that those who rated that they have sufficient to very sufficient internet access seem to have significantly higher self-efficacy beliefs scores compared to, again, those who said that they have somewhat sufficient or not sufficient uh, internet connection. Okay, so in a sense, uh, more than the access or the availability of internet, it's really the quality of internet connection that points to higher self-efficacy beliefs. So we asked as well our students to answer some open-ended questions. I'm not going to share all the results, but I want to talk about specifically when we ask them what are your expectations regarding online learning for next term, okay, or for the first full online term. And most of them, this is just a word cloud of their responses, but the overall theme was really their response is more on it's challenging. We expect it to be challenging, but okay, so meaning challenging but necessary. Some students would say that challenging, but we'll get the hang of it. Okay, so meaning they see that there are some things. Meaning it's a new way of learning, but it's something that is necessary and something that again they have to be able to adapt to. Okay, so in a sense, they do have positive outlook in terms um, of instruction moving to full online. So reflecting on the data from the start of term, I would like to say, or I would like to think that, and as I said earlier, okay, those who had blended learning, okay, would tend to be their experiences in blended learning is very much contributory to their online distance learning readiness. Okay, so although the difference is not as significant, but okay, those who had blended learning experience tend to have higher, okay, self-regulation and self-efficacy beliefs than those who are, again, who have not experienced blended learning with the learning management system. Okay, I would also like to reflect at this point in time the concept of digital natives. Okay, so when we talk about digital natives, again, my statement at this point would be students might be technology natives in terms of access and their self-efficacy beliefs of using the various technologies, but it seems like it's not as much compared to their blended learning or online distance learning nativeness. Okay, so or because their readiness is more on the self-regulation. Okay, so um, to some extent, this is expected. Having high self-efficacy is important, especially for first-time online students, according to Shenko and Watch 2020. But of course, the ease of access is also a key student attribute that will later on lead to student satisfaction, according to Drennan, Kennedy, and Pisarski 2005. Okay, so this tells us that all the students, this suggests that students' readiness for online learning is there. They have the capability in terms of devices, access, and familiarity with the features of the learning management system. And they also have positive self regulation, self efficacy skills, or beliefs towards online distance learning. Okay, so moving on to the data during the term. Okay, so for students and teachers during the term, oops, sorry, somebody placed an annotation. So let me just clear it. Okay, sige. So you can see that there is an increase in the number of courses teachers uh, that have utilized Animo Space from term 2 to term 3. And these are expected because, again, everyone's going online. Even the integrated school is going online. So the increase in the usage is somewhat, again, expected. Okay, so you can look at the number of assignments based on analytics data from our LMS. Assignments really surge, discussions and file uploads really surge comparing term 2 to term 3. Okay, term 3 is the full online, the first full online. Term 2 is the blended. Okay, so media recordings also increase, although not as much as compared to the other items. Okay, so in De La Salle University, in our LMS, we have what we call the studio, which is our video platform for teachers and students to create and share videos. Okay, and you can see there is that surge of use during in preparation for the July term. Okay, so this means teachers are recording their video lectures and starting to upload videos, share videos in the LMS or in order to prepare for their courses. And I'm sure for you guys as well, okay, you spent a chunk of your time creating, curating and creating videos. Okay, looking at the specific course activity of teachers, comparing term 2 and term 3, you can see that in terms of the most of the items, there seem to be similar or close numbers or percentages, but there is quite an increase in terms of pages and modules. Okay, so this would mean, for example, pages before was 15%. 15% of teachers were only using pages. but now around 51% are using pages. Modules from 49%, now 79% are using modules. Okay, so this would suggest that teachers are aiming to improve how to organize the asynchronous content and activities in their courses. Okay, in our learning management system, the pages and the modules are the features that would allow you to organize resources and activities. You can see as well that quizzes, for example, remains to be the lowest used item by our teachers. Okay, so teachers tend to shy away from quizzes and really use alternative forms of assessment. Okay, so most of them would rather go with assignments and discussions rather than giving quizzes to our students. We also have a tool we call Big Blue Button, which is a free virtual class tool. And we can see that we also experience a surge in the use of the Big Blue Button video conference tool, which started off March, April, the emergency online, and really kicked off July and August, the start of the term. Okay, so a lot of teachers, of course, develop the competencies on how to conduct virtual classes. Um, just an update, we are already now have our institutional wide subscription to Zoom. So teachers are also transitioning from Big Blue Button to the use of Zoom for their instruction. Okay, so in terms of frequency of access to active courses, uh, the the data would suggest, and this is in terms of accessing their courses 20 or more sessions per month. Okay, so you can see the green would be the students and the blue will be the teacher. So for student, it's really the same percentages, okay, meaning the same percentage of students access their courses 20 times or more, comparing term 2 and term 3 data. But there's an increase of 10% for teachers, meaning more teachers are accessing more frequently their online courses. Okay, so as I said, um, it's a good sign because it can mean that teachers are monitoring their courses uh, every time they visit them. The figure here shows the biweekly survey results which we implemented, and then we ran it at weeks 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 of the term. So you can see on the left side, we have the student data. This is percentage excellent or good rating from teachers and students. And then on the right side, we have the teachers. So you can see that it seems like teachers would tend to have higher percentage ratings to students in all of the items that we tested. We asked them about their amount and quality of interaction with their teachers and with students. Okay. At different weeks, though, there are different number of respondents. It can be as high as 1,200 responses or as low as 300, for example, for students. So these are not quote unquote required surveys, but surveys that we give out in the global announcement. And then if students want to answer them, then they can answer the survey. Okay, so it seems like teachers are rating it higher. Okay, and the lower items would always be, meaning the quality of interaction tends to be lower than the amount of interaction. Okay, so meaning there might be more or a lot of interaction going on between students and teachers, but the quality is again lower compared to the amount. Okay, and students express lower quality and amount, their perception compared to teachers' rating. Okay, and additionally, if you can see here, for students, it seems to remain the same throughout the week, whereas for teachers, there seem to be an increasing trend in terms of their excellent and good rating. Okay, meaning that the more we go through the weeks of the term, the more the teachers realize or become acquainted and see the value of the of online distance learning. Okay, we also asked about percentage of workload and overall experience. The workload here would mean, is the workload manageable or not, and then the overall experience with the with online distance learning so far. And as you can see, again, teachers would tend to have higher ratings, okay, and improving ratings compared to students. Okay. And finally, we ask as well some of the challenges that they encounter uh, throughout the weeks of the term. Okay, so you can see there seems to be a common challenge that were rated uh, high by both teachers and students, and it's the challenge of internet connectivity. Okay, so this is not again surprising. We've heard a lot of uh, students and teachers expressed, okay, that it's not really the access to, but the quality of access to the internet. Okay, so teachers and students also identified the performance of their device, okay, as a challenge throughout the weeks. Okay, there are differences though, like uh, students mentioned that their teachers are not ready, whereas teachers are saying that they are ready for online distance learning. And students somewhat admit, and it's the green line in student data, that their personal readiness with online learning is a challenge. Okay, and this is seconded by the teacher saying that the student readiness for online learning is also uh, is one of the top three challenges. Okay, so connecting it to the data at the start of the term, as I said, although the students might see themselves or might have positive outlook, okay, but when they start doing online, okay, they start to realize that again it's quite challenging compared to their initial uh, ideas. Okay. What seemed to also be a good data from this graph is that the availability of support, familiarity with Animo Space, and the performance of Animo Space proved to be minor challenges as expressed by both teachers and students. Okay, so it's a good thing because it means that the system itself did not fail the students and the teachers in terms of performance, and also that our office really was able to provide the corresponding support that teachers and students need. Okay. Um, okay. A few reflections from the data the during the term. Okay. So for me, it's all about the usual suspects. Okay, so coming into the term, we know that if there's going to be an increased usage in the use of the different course tools and user activity, but this was very evident for teachers more than the students, and we somewhat expected that the challenges of internet connectivity, device performance, and student readiness would be the challenges, and indeed they were. Okay, the second reflection here is that um, the first full online term seems to be a, a catching up term for teachers. Okay, because meaning teachers compared to students exhibited more gains in terms of their competencies with blended learning over time. Okay, so meaning students themselves are already would already rated themselves in terms of efficacy as very as high or at least confident. Okay, but the full online term, okay, help really teachers to to somewhat catch up and bridge the gap of competencies for online distance learning. Okay, so we receive a lot of comments of teachers saying that they're getting the hang of the online distance learning as well as the hang of the learning management systems. Okay, so there are enduring challenges as mentioned. But the good thing is that instructional technical competencies are being built, which is very important according to Richardson, York, and Lowenthal, 2014. Okay, so in terms of actual practice of teachers of biochronous learning, the growth or the initial practice would tend to be improving or organizing your digital resources asynchronously and moving towards virtual classes. Okay, so that seems to be the first inclination of teachers. Okay, and looking at the data as well, uh, I would reflect that there seems to be a back to basics approach, or if I can call it as such, for teachers. So there was a tendency, though, that the teacher-led interactions are more prevalent compared to interactions between students. As mentioned earlier, interaction, the amount and quality of interaction with the teacher is higher compared to the amount of interaction between students. So in a sense, what suffers in the online distance learning is really the interaction between the students. Okay, so finally, I would like to share with you guys the end of term acceptance data about Animo Space. This data is coming from around 700 plus students and only around, if I'm not mistaken, 120 20 plus teachers. Okay, because it's still an ongoing. We closed the survey a little after October, I think. Okay, so again, this confirmed that our students and teachers are have their devices. Okay, at least two devices, laptop and mobile, for their online distance learning. We asked them again in terms of their internet connection. Okay, and they mentioned that it's just enough for my animal space needs or fast. Okay, as I said, they rated their quality seems to be it's okay. Okay, but I guess quality and reliability is at times can vary. Okay, looking at the animal space tools, we asked them about how they perceive the animal space tools before, and then as you can see, focus primarily on the orange and the green. The green is for the teachers, orange being for the students. So it tends to be higher for students, their perception of usefulness of the different animal space tools. Okay, and that's a good thing. Okay, meaning they have built their competencies more in using these tools. But I would like to focus your attention on the right side, wherein as you can see, there are big jumps, especially for the use of studio or the video tool, the use of pages, okay, and the use of the usefulness, the perceived usefulness of conferences for our uh, for our students and teachers. Okay, in terms of easy to use, again, focusing on the right side, studio, pages, and conferences. This again aligns with the practice that they did during the term. Looking at the OASIS scores of our students at the start, comparing it to the end of the term, there seems to be an increase in both the self-regulation and self-efficacy beliefs of the students. Okay, we looked at the differences for those who answered both at the start and at the end, and there is a very significant difference between the self-regulation at the start com- uh, from the end compared to the start, and then as well as a significant difference from the self-efficacy beliefs comparing the end and start data. Okay, so when we looked at the common number of students, there were only around 80 students who answered both the start and OASIS surveys. Okay, so we look at some of the correlation, and yes, self-regulation correlates with the self-efficacy beliefs. Okay, this is again expected from this is supported by various literature. But what seemed to, if you look at specific items, what seemed to increase as well were the problem areas identified earlier. Okay, so we mentioned earlier being able to focus their attention and eliminate distractions were the lowest items for the self-regulation. They remain the lowest, but they now improve from not too confident to so somewhat confident in terms of those items. Okay, so sorry, I have to move a little fast because of time. Okay, so we also looked at the community of inquiry in our animal space courses. We look at three types of presence: teaching, social, and cognitive presence. This points to positive results overall, with the teaching presence seem to be the highest type of presence compared to social and cognitive. Okay. Um, in terms of best practice, this is just a word cloud of what the students would say. They found the organization of the modules, for example, as one of the best practices of their teachers. Okay, so going back to the teaching presence, we try to connect the different dimension of the presences, and some of them loaded naturally as expected in literature, but I highlighted here teacher facilitation and under teaching presence, and integration under cognitive presence as seems as items or areas that seem to go beyond their dimension. Okay, so what does this mean? So you, so meaning teaching presence and cognitive presence seems to be the key factors, and the third factor, or what we see as somewhat lower in our experience, is the social presence. Okay, as I said earlier, there seem to be more teacher-led activities more than uh, student uh, student interactions. Okay, so what does this mean? It means that what students rated as best practices is when teachers build understanding, okay, or facilitate the understanding of their courses. Okay, this would also mean that activities that students like to do are reflection activities, activities that connect different ideas and creating solutions to problems. These are all under the integration, okay, or the CP integration. What this also means is there is that intersection of the teaching and cognitive presence, okay, which would suggest that the strong points of our teachers is really in selecting content and supporting the discourse, whereas the weak point of our teachers is really setting the climate for interaction and building the relationships online. Okay, so we look at technology acceptance. So again, mostly positive results here. Wanted to emphasize that the system support or the facilitating conditions of support uh, was seen as highly correlating to the ease of use. Okay, so support is very important, and the attitude of users tend to correlate to their behavioral intention. Okay, sige. Let's just move forward. In terms of problems at the end of the term, the internet again is still the prevailing continuing problem mentioned by our respondents. So a few reflections on this part. First is improving. So the end of term data suggests that there's an increased positive perceptions of Animo Space tool in terms of usefulness and ease of use for both teachers and students. Okay, another reflection is it comes down to the teacher. Okay, with what we're doing right now, it comes down to how the teachers would guide the students in their blended and online distance learning experience. So the teacher's facilitation, okay, in some extent, makes or break the online experience of our students. Okay, so teaching presence has to be there, and seems to be there more than the student social presence. And of course, provision of support seem to be very essential in the acceptance of animo space. Okay, so as teachers, our takeaway here is we have to make our presence be felt. Okay, we have to facilitate we are the designers of our online or blended courses. And again, we have to set the climate for interactions. Okay, so moving forward, these are some of the recommendations, both for teachers and also for policymakers. It seems like efforts is better directed to designing asynchronous learning experiences more than synchronous learning experiences to combat specifically the online connectivity problems. Okay, so this would mean that schools should again, and a lot of schools naman have started to even share their modules, okay, with each other. Okay, there's a lot of OERs right now. There's DepEd Commons. There's CHED also have their own uh, Commons or OER site. Okay, but for teachers, invest on designing effective asynchronous learning experiences. Okay, because you don't expect all your students to join in the synchronous learning activity. Their internet connection varies. Even cancellation of classes is still a reality in online distance learning. Okay, like today Manila has canceled classes. Okay, so much effort needs to be done in the asynchronous learning component of your blended courses. And it doesn't mean that it's asynchronous cannot be interactive. Okay, so you might want to use your asynchronous learning activities and then lean more towards encouraging students' social interaction in blended and online distance learning activities. Okay, so encourage a lot of discussion forums. Use tools that would encourage them to participate more asynchronously. Okay, so Flipgrid, for example, comes on top of mind. And for our trainers and school officials, this can also be the focus of community of practice-based teacher training as well. Okay, so train your teachers how to develop effective modules as well as how to promote that social interaction, that climate of social interaction. Number three is to strengthen the blended ODL support system, especially for students. Okay, so um, I would even go to the extent of supporting the support in your school. Okay, because um, oftentimes the office in charge might also need again additional personnel, additional resources in order to respond to the growing needs of both teachers and students. Okay, so really your support office is really the frontliner at this point in time. Okay, so this would mean changing your policy even for acquisition of applications that they can try, uh, more funding for them, for your teachers to have software that they can make e-learning materials, uh, and of course, a good virtual class tool. And finally, future studies can look further into the student blended learning online readiness as it relates to their participation and performance. Okay, so a lot of digging of data needs to be done. It might be also interesting to compare the level of acceptance between the first full online term that I shared with you this afternoon, and to the succeeding terms, uh, because the first time you do things is always going to be the hardest. So it's quite interesting to look at how the picture will change on the second or the succeeding terms that you're doing online. Okay, so I guess my time is up, but before I end, let me just reiterate one thing that I would like to share is that when we want to improve our online distance learning and blended learning in that sense, it's really an investment. Okay, so as teachers, we have to invest time and effort so that we can improve the quality of our blended courses. as institutions, we need to invest training our teachers, and we also have to invest in our infrastructure um, to improve, especially the internet, the quality of internet, quality and reliability of internet access. Uh, if it's possible nationwide, then that would be a great step towards a uh, better learning. So again, teachers, thank you very much. And I know that even if it's online, we can continue teaching minds, touching hearts, and transforming lives. So I'll be glad to. This is our team in Assist. So we're only a five-man team, and we seek the help of our ITS and our Canvas Success Manager. So thank you very much. I will give the floor back to Ma'am Rose and if you need to contact me, here's my email and a quick invitation if you want to join us in our MA Educational Technology program.
Thank you po, Dr. Alantaga, for that discussion. Now, for our open forum, we encourage everyone, as well as the viewers from our FB live streaming, to type in their questions in the chat box or comment section. And our speaker will gladly answer po yung mga tanong po nating lahat. We have collected some of the questions po from our Zoom participants, from Ms. De Los Reyes. How do you control, quote unquote, too many requirements for submissions of students? Students seem to be swamped with too much requirements to pass a course.
Yeah, and again, as I mentioned, that's a very good question, and the workload will always be one of the problem. Um, I would always say that you have to go back to the course objectives, okay, because remember the learning experiences, okay. If you look at the backward design, if you can remember the backward design, it starts off with the course objectives, okay, and that dictates assessment, and that dictates the learning experiences or the amount of things that you will ask your students to do, okay. So uh as a teacher, I always, when I train them, I tell them to keep it super simple. Okay, so, when you design your modules, um, so that's a call. That's really a reflection that all teachers would need to do. Okay, because you know your subject more than I do. Okay, so the one thing that would lessen, I guess, the coursework, if if teachers across subjects can really coordinate as well so that if work can be interdisciplinary, meaning if outputs in one if an output can serve as an output for more than one course, then that would really deload the our students. Okay, it's quite challenging, especially in HEI, but we've had experience of that co-teaching as well as interdisciplinary outputs. So yeah.
Thank you po, Dr. Adontaga. Another question po from Mr. Velasco. How do you conduct major assessments and how do you ensure that the results are valid for the students answer the questions honestly? Second question po ay how do you conduct laboratory subjects where students have to use actual equipment such as in engineering courses?
So again, these are great questions. Assessment will continue to be the challenge in online distance learning. Okay, and uh, how I wish there is a straight answer to the question. Okay, there's no foolproof way to secure assessment. May it be online or face to face. There are different tools that you can try. There are instructional ways that you can solve the answer of assessment. Like as I said, some of only around 40% of our teachers use the quiz tool because we encourage alternative authentic assessment. Okay, so that somewhat solves the academic integrity problem to some extent. Um, and then there are some technologies as well that can help you, like an online proctoring tool. Okay, but uh, you have to be very you have to reflect as an institution, because out of all the tools, the assessment security tools are really the most costly compared to getting your LMS, or compared to getting your virtual class or your Zoom subscription. It's really one of the most uh, pricey tools out there that can that schools can invest in. Okay, so in our case, we promote again alternative, and we tell our teachers, when you make your assessment, make an assessment that is for open book. Expect the students will have open books or Google the questions. So that would mean questions would tend to be more on the higher order thinking rather than lower order thinking or Googleable questions. The second item is the laboratory. Okay, we had a decision before, like we were hoping that laboratory subjects would still have even a couple of weeks to be done physically, but of course, based on the advice of the IATF, then it happened that even laboratory courses had to do full online. Okay, I'm not so aware how the specific laboratory subjects handled, because again, I'm looking more into the big picture. But with based on some conversations with some teachers, uh, they've utilized like virtual labs. Okay, you have to look at alternatives to concrete experiences. Okay, and to some extent, you have to you have to realize that there will never be a replacement for concrete experiences. There will never be like as good replacement or alternative. So you have to be forgiving of yourself if you cannot really uh, deliver your laboratory subjects as ideal. Okay, but some concrete experiences alternatives is really scenario based learning. Okay, case studies are good alternatives. Video based learning obviously is there, and virtual laboratories. Okay, so it's how we hope that the virtual reality technology is already accessible, but at the moment it's a bit costly, I think.
Thank you po, Dr. Alantaga. Another question po from Mr. San Jose. The title of the presentation is Blended Learning Experiences of HE Students. Will the experiences of the students be more captured if the researcher used the mixed method and not quantitative alone?
Yeah.
He is more interested to know how the students can cope with the challenges and what significant experiences they had with Animo Space that are worth sharing. And
Yeah.
another follow-up question lang din po niya, Dr. Alantaga,
Opo.
is, does Animo Space trace academically fraud output of students?
Student, yeah. Okay. So again, the first question, yeah, the one that I shared with you guys is mostly the quantitative side. As I mentioned, this is a paper, this is a work in progress document. Okay, so we had a mixed method approach. Okay, we also have qualitative responses from our open-ended questions. Um, but we haven't really gotten around, meaning we've done some initial uh, analysis of themes. Okay, but it's not really, that's why I shared the word cloud slide that I had earlier, that really reflects more the qualitative part of the paper. Okay, so we are in the process of writing it, and it will include as well qualitative components, which are again very very essential. Okay, so but for me, I would even say, okay, aside from the quantitative, which is the survey, the qualitative, which is the can be interview or the open-ended questions, what is important to also look into is the analytics. Okay, the analytics tend to be, of course, quantitative, but at times the analytics data, meaning the data generated by the system or your learning management system, can paint a truer picture of the experiences, of the behaviors of your of your teachers and students. Okay, because students can say they strongly agree, they can also say positive qualitative feedback. But when you look at the analytics, their actual performance based on analytics, then you can paint a truer picture. Okay, so we're also gonna look into that. As I said earlier, we're only a five-man team right now, and out of the five, two are secretaries in a sense, and two are technical people. So we're tapping on because we have a lot of research experts in the university. We're trying to also come up with a committee of research for specifically for online distance learning, and that's a very good suggestion, sir. Definitely, Sir Ariel, San Jose. Know that we are not again ignoring the uh, qualitative feedback, okay? Especially for the integrated school. Children, our integrated school, the grade school, junior high school, are more eager to give qualitative feedbacks compared to our college respondents. And then the second question is about whether Animo Space trace academic fraud outputs of students. Okay, we have successfully integrated, for example, Turnitin in our Animo Space. So for submission of documents, the similarity index can be computed. Okay, and that can give an indicator of academic fraud. Okay, but we also tell our teachers what are some of the indicators, other indicators of academic fraud, like for example, when students answer the quiz, and let's say it's a 10-item quiz, and the students seem to answer it only like 10 seconds, then it means there might be some academic dishonesty that happened for that particular quiz response. So we give some other indicators, but the concrete is really the Turnitin integration that we've done.
Thank you po, Dr. Alantaga. Another question po, particularly in laboratory classes from Ms. De Los Reyes. How is the laboratory classes taught? And another question din po from Ms. Mulawin. What can you suggest in assessing field studies and internship classes?
True. Okay. So again, I talked about the laboratory classes earlier. Okay. So again, alternative to concrete experiences. Okay. So there are videos, virtual laboratories. Okay, the good thing I guess is that a lot of e-learning companies also open their doors and their trial periods to their softwares on a wider time period compared to before. Like I know, for example, like before it's usually like 2 to 3 weeks or 30-day trial, but now some of these e-learning companies are also willing to extend it to a 2-month trial of their resources and applications. So teachers have to maximize this, especially laboratory courses. Okay, because again, um, how we wish although there are e-learning companies that would talk about exponential technologies like augmented reality, virtual reality, but of course these are few. Okay, so there's quite few. So the best is really demonstrations, okay, from the teachers, as I said, video based demonstrations of even actual equipments, and if there are simulations as well that you can use for your courses, then that will be the way to go for laboratory courses. And then there's a question on assessing field studies and internship classes. Okay. Practicum, especially, I can only talk about internship, for example, in the College of Education, since I'm a faculty in the College of Education. Um, of course, some of our practicum sites have gone online as well. So our students are serving as teaching assistants to online teaching assistants to these teachers, and then ease into direct supervision of online classes. Okay, so there's going to be a lot of changes as well in the evaluation tool that we use for internship classes. Okay, so I guess the answer would be review your assessment, your assessment procedures. Okay, and knowing that internship and field studies will now be online. Okay, then how because I know you already have your assessment tools, existing assessment tools, so just review it to be responsive to the change of uh, delivery.
Thank you po, Dr. Alantaga, for answering all the questions of our participants. At this point, we have invited a representative from the Commission on Higher Education National Capital Region to give us a response for this afternoon's topic. Help me welcome Ms. Liza Libertine L. Magana, a Supervising Education Program Specialist from CHED-NCR. Good afternoon po, Ms. Liza.
Yes, good afternoon.
Good
Uh,
afternoon po.
First of all, I would like to thank the DOST Pamamarisan Cluster for inviting me to be the reactor on examining blended learning experiences of higher education institutions for your second session of the Science, Technology, and Innovation Purposive Researches for Smarter Communities. First of all, I would like to congratulate Dr. Jasper Vincent Alontaga for coming up with a very timely and fitting research on blended learning. Because of the unexpected crisis that we are in, especially in the academic cluster, studies related to the new mode of delivery of teaching and learning are badly needed in the academe. Hence, this study or studies like this are very welcome and helpful to higher education institutions in the country. In the Commission on Higher Education, we have the CHED Memorandum Order number 4, Series 2020, wherein CHED encourages higher education institutions to formulate decisions using data-driven and participatory approaches on determining and implementing the most viable form of flexible learning and teaching that they will utilize. In CHED, we are adopting flexible learning as the new mode of delivery. Flexible learning is a learner-centered approach that is deeply rooted in the needs of the students, wherein the main objective is to provide learners the most flexibility on the learning content, schedules, access, and innovative assessment, making use of digital and non-digital tools like LMS and other sorts. So the LMS of the LSU, the Animo Space, is one of the digital tools needed in the better implementation of flexible learning. As for my reaction to the study, I see the value of using mixed method research design in the study as it provided a wider coverage of respondents and period of implementation that eliminated possible biases, especially that the study focused on the end user's acceptance of the new technology. It is good that it included levels of technology, availability of devices, and internet connectivity as indicators of the study. For this are major considerations in implementing learning and teaching designs. In addition to this, it might also be useful to separate the responses according to the program level, whether undergraduate student or graduate student or teachers, the gender, male or female, and also the level of digital literacy of both the teachers and students to determine whether these factors affect the results of the study. The research covered both the students' and teachers' perception of the usefulness and ease of use of the Animo Space of De La Salle University. It also included attitude towards its usage, behavioral intention to use, facilitating conditions and systems accessibility. It was able to identify areas of improvement in consideration of the needs of learning styles of the students and teachers, competence and readiness that are helpful in the development of teaching and learning strategies. Although it has covered significant areas, it may also take into consideration the difference in the teachers' and students' standards in terms of readiness, as shown in the results of the perceived challenges. It may also explore possible reasons of other challenges mentioned by the respondents. In the flexible learning, the Commission considers learners and teachers as co-creators of knowledge. Thus, learning experiences are easily customized and grounded on the realities of learning and teaching environment. The use of technology is very important to support and continue learning and teaching, especially in this time of pandemic, where the regular face-to-face mode is not permissible. It is good to note that students see blended learning as something that they can live with, as this is now the new normal. However, this positive attitude might not be the same with students and teachers of other higher education institutions that are not as privileged as De La Salle University. I hope that there will be other studies like this, but with a different setting as a comparison. Again, congratulations to Dr. Alontaga for this responsive study. CHED is looking forward to have more studies like this in the near future. And also, congratulations to the DOST-NCR Pamamarisan Cluster for organizing such a timely activity. Thank you and more power.
Thank you, Ma'am Liza, for sharing your ideas and thoughts about this topic. The success of this event will not be possible without the presence of our speaker. To award the Certificate of Appreciation, allow me to read the citation. The Department of Science and Technology National Capital Region awards the Certificate of Appreciation to Dr. Jasper Vincent Q. Alontaga for sharing his invaluable expertise and knowledge during the Conduct webinar on examining blended learning experiences of higher education institutions. This day, November 11, 2020, signed by our Regional Director, Mr. Jose B. Patalinhog III. Once again, thank you po, Dr. Alantaga. Also, we would like to express our gratitude to our reactor by awarding the Certificate of Appreciation. The Department of Science and Technology National Capital Region awards the Certificate of Appreciation to Ms. Liza Libertine L. Magana for providing her insights in the forum titled Examining Blended Learning Experiences of Higher Education Institution this day, November 11, 2020, signed by our Regional Director, Mr. Jose B. Patalinhog III. Thank you po, Ma'am Liza.
Thank you din po.
And to give us a short synthesis of today's session, may I call on Ms. Camille Estemado from DOST-NCR.
Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to commend the presentation and insights of our speaker, Dr. Alantaga and Ma'am Liza, regarding the topic on the examining blended learning experiences in higher education institutes. With the start of the new academic year, government and learning institutions were in deep preparation for the new normal of the country's education sector. This is the transitioning to a blended and distant learning approach amid the ongoing health crisis. While the Department of Education and Commission of on Higher Education's call to shift, the teaching modalities is still met with apprehensions. The adoption of the blended learning delivery mode should be seen as more than temporary safety measure. Little did we know that some universities already specialize in distance learning or distance education for the longest time. With the discussion of Dr. Alontaga, he shares how the e-learning management system adopted by the De La Salle University complement the learning experiences of both the educators and the students. I just wanted to highlight some of the important ideas in this context. Learning institutions must holistically embrace the changes. In an ever-changing global environment, such as COVID-19 pandemic, educational institutions must remain adaptive and resilient to continuously enable the learners with their needed educations in their future workplace. Another is rethink the design process. The academe to adopt the innovative learning tools such as Microsoft software, Google system, different e-learning management systems such as Canvas, and introduction of the new ICT enhanced curricula and learning content to redefine the classroom experiences. Like in the case of De La Salle University, they incorporated their Animo Space tool in the LMS. Next is the content that best corresponds with the student's needs. We all know that the online blended learning is completely different from the traditional classroom type. It requires a more engaging, accessible, and importantly, safe and secure data. As a result of Dr. Alantaga's study, he pointed that the HEIs should invest on designing an asynchronous learning experiences more than the synchronous learning experiences to combat online connectivity. Teachers should also encourage the students to have a more social interactions. Dr. Alantaga also shares the 4 Ds of learning template. This discover, discuss, deepen, and demonstrate. Last that I want to highlight is to collaborate with key stakeholders. In order to have a comprehensive plan, we must link or we must partner our systems with the different strategies of our government and private institutions. As identified a while ago, some of the challenges and opportunities for the online blended learning. First is the online security risks such as hacking, identity theft, forgery, and data leakage. The ELMS should be safe, secured, and accessible only to the accredited users. Likewise, DepEd or CHED should have a modernized or digitalized their country's education system by buying the right hardware or software for blended learning program of all the schools, of all the educational institutions. Next is the technological capacity of the educators and parents. Developing technological capacity of educators, especially those educators who are not acquainted with different blended learning experiences. Thus, the teachers must acquire a certain level of IT competency and proficiency needed for distant online learning. The Animo Space has its own tracking system for teachers and for teachers to encourage and motivate them with their online learning courses. Currently, the Department of Information and Communication Technologies, or DICT, conducted series of online seminars aimed at preparing the teachers to adopt the alternative learning system. Next challenge is the lack of internet access. The challenge of the lack of internet access and increased payment of the internet subscriptions, which we consider as one of the concerns of the marginalized sector. The implementation of the ICT memo on providing adequate free Wi-Fi internet access and connectivity for public educational institutions, as well as to maximize the radio and television-based instructions for those without access to a computer or internet. Next is the flexibility of the e-learning scheme. We should make use of the all available ELMS systems like the Canvas, Google Classroom, Edmodo, which is is a user-friendly platform. Psychology, which allows the teachers to create class and uploads resources and materials online. CHED also has their own LMS wherein they develop the PHL CHED Connect, which houses a free higher education materials for teaching, learning, and research process, as well as HiEd, which is HiEd Bayanihan program, which provides training for their faculty members. Also, DepEd, Commons, and DOST has their own reference materials for the students like the Star books. So the challenge now The discussions on the experiences of De La Salle University and using the e-learning management system have greatly influenced the behavior of the students in distance learning, and it exhibited more gains for teachers and students in terms of competitiveness. But the main challenge now is, do we bet on another semester of good enough remote teaching? Or do we scramble to develop an online versions of all the scheduled courses to meet the established standards of the course design? It has caused a permanent change in the higher education and motivating greater investment in education and attention to high quality online offerings. What we need now is the support from the national government agencies, a comprehensive online modules, and support to the competitiveness of our educators. Thank you po.
Thank you, Ms. Camille. Definitely, our listeners and participants gain so much ideas on how we can adopt blended learning, which is very timely in this time of pandemic for a good quality of education to our students and to the teachers also. Now, to formally close this afternoon session, may I call on the Assistant Regional Director of Technical Operations Division of DOST-NCR, Engineer Arman P. Bionat.
In behalf of the DOST-NCR and Director of CB Patalinhog III, we would like to thank Dr. Jasper Vincent Alontaga, who served as a resource speaker for the seminar entitled Examining Blended Learning Experiences of Higher Education Institute, Experience of De La Salle State University. We have to adapt to the situation to prevent the spread of COVID-19 and implement the e-learning education. Dr. Alontaga presented how the LSU implemented effectively the blended learning education of the school. We hope that other academic institutions can consider the strategies and methodologies that the LSU and incorporate it in their present online learning procedure. Also, thank you for our participants from the other regional offices, DepEd, CHED, and other academic institutions. We hope that you have learned a lot from this virtual seminar. Magandang hapon sa inyong lahat.
Thank you po, Sir Arman, for your message to our participants and to our speaker. Now for the some announcement po for the upcoming session. Tomorrow will be our day 2 for the webinar series. The topic will be on the challenge of single-use plastics by Dr. Fabian de Riet. It will start on 9 a.m., followed by the afternoon session with a topic on the demand metrics of urban green spaces, establishing tenets of urban biodiversity with our speaker, Dr. Leonora P. Gonzalez, a licensed environmental planner. We encourage everyone who registered on our webinars to enter the virtual room 30 minutes before the session starts. For those who cannot be admitted in the Zoom meeting, you can still watch the seminar through FB live streaming on DOST National Capital Region official Facebook page. Please check your email for the instructions and guidelines for the remaining sessions. Before we end this session, we would like to take this moment for a photo opportunity with our speaker and participants, and may I request everyone to please open their videos and smile to the camera. Last 10 seconds po. Okay, may I request everyone to please open their videos and smile to the camera. Thank you, everyone. Again, on behalf of our Regional Director, Mr. Jose B. Patalinhog III, we would like to thank everyone who participated in this webinar, especially to our speaker, Dr. Jasper Alontaga, and to our reactor, Ma'am Liza Libertine Magana, and to those who watch us through our FB live streaming. This has been your moderator, Roseanne Fernandez, wishing you a blessed day. See you tomorrow for the next two sessions. Thank you and keep safe.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Alontaga.
We live in an era of constant change. Innovations are so common in this day and age. To ignite the mind in these exciting times is how we move the nation in this new millennium. We nourish and heal our people by making them able to do great things, to spread our wings. We save and protect the land in any way we can. We empower the Filipino and unify all. Ignite the mind, light the fuse, the spark of inspiration. Ignite the power of a and new breed of Filipino. We bring advancements in science and technology to bear. We are DOST and we pave the way for the future. Ignite the mind, move the nation, nourish and heal our people. Ignite the power of a brand new breed of Filipino. Ignite the mind, light the fuse, the spark of inspiration to save and protect the land. We are DOST and we pave the way for the future. Everything starts when you ignite the mind. DOST.
Good afternoon po for our participants po na nandito pa sa ating Zoom webinar. For the e-certificate, kindly accomplish the evaluation form that was given to our chat box and it can be accessed until 10 p.m. po ngayong araw. Thank you po.